Okay, cool. And Twitch, yeah, we're going to chat for just about 15 minutes or so. Just a quick one.
It was very, very hard not to tell you were right all along.
I know. I totally called it. Although, seeing all the evidence about Nathan in that dark room threw me off.
Yeah.
And also, again, seeing him there at the party threw me a little bit. And the fact that that message about the body being changed came from Nathan.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that they are they're working together in some way. I mean, it's a bunker owned by the Prescotts. The jacket there was Nathan's. You know, Nathan obviously has similar interests. There were all these photos, these weird photos and dark movies in his room. So he's obviously involved. I mean, the two are working together. The question is just, what's the bigger motive behind that, or is it just, weird fetish? Then that wouldn't explain any of the supernatural crap.
oh, indeed. I'm actually just doing some volume work on the game because it's quite loud. 1 second, let me see if I can. Well, let me. There we go. That's a little better. All right, cool.
Yeah.
It was being too loud, so. I can see Silver
So,
Fusion on here. I'm just going to comment on that. He's talking about the tornado. Obviously, that's been mentioned since episode 1. So that's kind of expected, all of the tornado stuff. Seeing Chloe die, well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a way of reversing that. But who knows? But seeing Chloe die is an amazing shock to have in there to keep you wanting to watch. But I have a feeling there might be a way of reversing that. And we are, hashtag Chloe will be saved. Absolutely.
I think Silver is right about that, and from what I can tell, that's the prevailing theory. I mean, obviously we can't rewind right now, and when we wake up, it'll be too late to just rewind. But that photo with Warren was just too conveniently placed, and we've saved Chloe from what seemed to be like a terrible fate before via just that mechanism. So that's gonna be the way to save her.
That's an interesting theory that Silver Fusion put in. We had a photograph taken with Warren just before we entered the Vortex Club, and if we can travel via the photos like we did to go way back in time, that might be an option. So I like that theory. That's a really cool theory.
Note that Warren used our Polaroid camera and not his mobile phone. So the photo is actually with
Max. I assume.
Yeah, with Max,
Mr. Justin really good at his shots, that's true, but oh my god, like, I always thought he was dodgy and too friendly. He just seemed like, the obvious person to throw as a left field bad guy, which is why I've been calling him out for quite some time as someone not to trust. And obviously I think somewhere when we first met him in this episode, I even called it again. So I don't trust him, I don't like him. So I was right to call that one.
I was very scared that people would spoil that for you. There was some dude who even asked, like, "Oh, anybody want spoilers?" And
I saw that.
Have my mouse over the timeout button for him. So. I have like two little problems with the finale here. One is that it seems that Jefferson came to the junkyard awfully quickly. I mean, he was still on stage when we left, right?
Yeah.
So,
but only as long as it took for us to get there. There was a time break in between, so he didn't necessarily beat us there. He could have just been behind us.
But it still seemed a little close,
Maybe, although he may have been ready to go when he got a text through, because obviously the reason we were there in the first place is because Chloe got a text. Although she said it was from Nathan, that possibly could have been somehow through Jefferson. So he may have been ready to drive there when he chose the timing. Whoever sent that text message.
Well, the phone did say Nathan, so
Well, you could have
but
Nathan's
obviously
phone.
That's just Nathan's phone.
Yeah. So possible.
Note that we didn't see Nathan at all after the dorm room, so he's somewhere, and he
At
wasn't there
large.
with Mr. Jefferson. So
Yeah.
who knows where he is? Probably prepping the dark room.
I guess the frustration, as always, call the goddamn police, especially when you've got a fucking body. At that point, that's just like, okay.
That was my second problem. At least take photos of everything. You have a Polaroid camera. Polaroid photos aren't easily faked. And I mean, the girls didn't clean up after themselves when they were in the bunker. You know, they just left everything sitting around. So obviously, you know, the bad guys knew that someone had broken in and discovered them. And they didn't even think to take photos of the folders and all that stuff, you know. So that's really weird. And then go to the junkyard at night without any sort of help or... No, sorry. That's just too convenient. So I had a little problem with that, but I guess...
I think besides the obviously, the obvious shock moments of who did it, of it being Jefferson at the end there, throughout the episode there wasn't too many shock moments of stuff that we didn't already know. There's a lot of pictures that confirmed things that we already knew but were quite shocking to see. And the dark room itself, obviously we didn't really know it went to quite a deeper level as that when we looked at all the date rape stuff in the past. So that took it to a new level. But most of it was all the way through just confirming what you already really know, in a way.
There's one thing to consider here, though. We don't actually know if the girls are being raped or just, you know, photographed and bondaged or whatever you want to call it. I'm kind of assuming that, that don't want to have that controversy on their hand by using actual rape in any form. I mean, obviously they won't show it, but even just to confirm that is what actually happens, I don't think they will want to have that controversy on their hands. So I'm kind of guessing that the kids are just abducted, put into this terrible situation, and then
killed in some cases.
Right. Well, yeah,
at least one.
With Rachel, that could have been a mistake or an accident, you know, an overdose.
What about all those other girls? All those other girls. I mean, that cabinet was filled with them, and absolutely fills with Chloe.
But there were not many missing cases or cases of missing persons. In one episode, I think there was like a list, and there's like a long time between Rachel and the previous missing person. So it's not like dozens of girls who've gone missing over the last 2 years or something. So I think most of the girls were just abducted and let loose again. And Rachel was a mishap of some sort. In one photo, she seemed to be awake, so maybe she woke up and then they had to kill her for fear to go to the police or something.
So at the end of episode 2, we see a scene where the principal and Jefferson are talking in a car. It's right at the very end. They're talking in a car and Jefferson drives off.
Yeah. The discussion with the principal, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I wonder if anything more will come from that. I can't do the look at the shared files at the moment. Sylvia's not while I'm recording, but
I kind of don't think that the principal's involved. Not really.
No. There's obviously more to do with the Prescott family to get... they obviously paid for that room. And there's also loads of evidence that points to the Nathan's family in there. There's photographs of the Prescott family all over that place in the dark room.
Yeah. There's, I think it's in the old chest. I don't know, but I think there's a document that you can read which says basically that the Prescotts got rich on storm shelters. So they basically own a company that sets up these bunkers. And a lot of people actually have them. Well, not everybody, but it used to be very common in America to have like a fallout shelter. Storm shelters, obviously, also maybe not in Oregon, but
yeah, anyway, like
in some
Midwest and
parts of the
stuff
US.
where they've got like
Yeah.
tornadoes all the time.
So just having a place like that in itself isn't really that suspicious, but and even that someone uses it for nefarious purposes, because I mean it is of course.
Well,
hidden
except
place,
it
right?
was except it was newly built, and the receipt was there, so it's like a brand new installation.
Yeah, I think what makes it actually more dark, well, maybe not more dark than the kidnapping and abusing teenagers, but there is all this talk from Nathan's father, Prescott Sr., about all this destiny and the day is coming soon and so on. And that combined with setting up a shelter and stocking it, and something that I didn't get in my playthrough was that the supplies in the bunker are all the exact same brands as the ones that David had in the garage.
Yeah.
So,
but that's not that
seems...
surprise, because it's only a small little place. It might only be one corner shop. Do you know what I mean? And they might.
I know, but still, I think, you know, for them to point that out, it could be a red herring, but there's also, of course, the possibilities that the Prescotts do have their hand in these events in some way, shape, or form.
Well, we know Nathan's definitely involved,
this.
no matter what, with those kidnappings, because Nathan was the one that drugged the girls. We know for certain because Chloe was there and we've got her anecdotal evidence of her altercation with Nathan in his bedroom with a broken lamp. We've got Kate's who only ever mentions Nathan in any of that, and you know, so whatever happens, like the girls obviously starts off with Nathan, and then somehow Nathan hands them off to Jefferson. I mean, it all seems pretty wild.
Well, Jefferson is the professional photographer, right? So, yeah, he seems to be one taking the actual pictures and not Nathan. And obviously they could just be in the pay of Prescott Sr. to do this. You know, maybe that's his hobby, you know. But that wouldn't explain all this talk about the destiny, you know, and it doesn't explain the supernatural events at all. So there has to be some sort of payoff there too, and an explanation as to why there will be this huge tornado, why there are two moons in the sky.
I've always put that down to being more related to Max's power and her using it.
Yeah, but then why does she have the power?
I know, but I mean, it could all come together in one big event with the Prescotts, but I just see it as it all part of the craziness of the fact that she's got superpowers of some kind. Be alright, but there's not many clues about the wider mystery of the stellar events. They don't really do much clue giving there, whereas for the dark room and Rachel, they've been giving clues throughout. So, but now all of the mystery is in many ways is gone. There's not much theory crafting over Rachel's disappearance anymore, apart from, you know, how other people might end up being involved that haven't been put into already, like Nathan's father or the drug dealer guy, Frank.
Well, it was obviously not Frank's fault. I think it would be fairly bad form for them to really introduce a new villain in episode 5. My fear for episode 5 is a little that they will not really explain any of the supernatural stuff. You know, maybe it'll just be a big escape, fight against the bad guys, coming about a happy or semi-happy end, and then Max loses her powers, and it's all a mystery why that happened. And that would be very unsatisfying.
I imagine the escape from the dark room and the way you're getting away is like, this is how I imagine it, although I might be totally wrong, is that the storm comes in and she manages to get outside, and then you're running through the storm of the vortex, going through, whilst you're being chased down, and perhaps, you know, Jefferson or Nathan get caught up in the vortex, and that's maybe how they meet their end. Is through the other events that are around. But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Like, it's Square Enix being a publisher, it could have lots of more extra fantasy elements, so that we don't know yet.
I don't think they will introduce any new mechanics. That's a possibility, but I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
And I also don't think that we will stay in the dark room for very long. I think that will be about comparable to the time in the alternate universe in this episode.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, and then we get out and have to find a way to stop whatever's happening from happening.
I feel like this was the longest episode, definitely. Because, I mean, I pushed through as quickly as I could in some places where I could have, like that Vortex party, I could have chatted for fucking hours. So I wanted to push past.
I don't think you missed much.
But no, I don't think I missed too much. But mostly the puzzles caught me out a little bit. Some of them were a little tricky, and I did get kind of caught out by the car puzzle because I got thrown off by a different picture clue, or one of those pictures showing up in an early event, and I thought that was what they were talking about. But it's kind of hard to do puzzles when you're like doing a live stream and stuff, and you're watching chat as well. It's like, oh my god! But it was okay.
Why do you think I was so happy that you were there for the Mist series? So, besides being entertaining and the friend and so, of course, but no. What I was gonna say is, you have no idea how long it took me to focus that bloody photo to go back into the past and kill off William, and you have no idea how many times I tried to get a better outcome with Frank, and I never got it to work. I must have spent, I don't know, half an hour on that, and whatever I did, I just couldn't do it.
I was tempted to, but I was like, no, it's going to take too long. I want to move it forward. So that's why I didn't for that. But there'll be alternative playthroughs elsewhere you'll be able to watch where some people have done that. And you'll be able to see the cutscenes elsewhere. Cool. Well,
I did tell you I had an anecdote about the locations. Since we're now in Vent, let me quickly tell this to you.
Okay, cool.
So what I did was I plugged all the GPS coordinates into Google Earth.
Right.
And it turns out that they are all located in a bay west of Portland on the coast. And so they all make sense. You know, there's a map of Arcadia Bay in Max's notebook, and the location sort of makes sense. So the developer really, put them in roughly the correct relation to each other. So these
in a real world location
make a lot of sense. In a real world location.
Wow.
And it's inside a bay, as in the water. And the really funny thing about this is, and I've forgotten the name, Tillerman Bay or something, Tillerman Book Bay or something. I would have to look it up, forgot the name. But anyway, when I did some research, I found on Reddit that someone had posted a link to local stories from that area. And there was a resort town built there by the Potter family. So they owned this entire town. I forgot what the name of the town was as well, of course. But basically there was a big storm and this entire town sank into this bay. So
oh, spoilers!
The inspiration.
Spoilers.
No, but we don't know if that's what happens. But it seems to me that the inspiration for Arcadia Bay being owned by the Prescotts comes from this vacation town being owned by the Potters.
Hashtag Neil spoilers.
So, hey, it's just a theory. It's not a spoiler because I don't know what's gonna happen in episode 5. But I thought it was was really fascinating that there's this sort of basis.
Yeah, definitely.
For this,
I imagine that one of the developers obviously used to live in the area, must know about it or something.
The writer, I think.
Yeah, he's his inspiration. That's kind of really cool. I like that. Yeah. I think that's actually an excellent story to end this discussion on, though, because it's getting late. But I'm just going to thank everyone on the chat for joining. I had a really good time playing this game, like I always do.